Sarah Winters had always been the type of girl to do things on a whim. But today, she was feeling bolder than usual. The sunlight was filtering through her dorm window, casting a warm glow on the room, and her roommate Amanda was over in the corner, fiddling with her new camera. It had been a week since Amanda got into photography, and since then, she had been obsessed with snapping pictures of everyone in the dorm. At first, Sarah had rolled her eyes, thinking it was just a passing phase. But now, with Amanda's growing skills, the photos looked more professional than ever. Everyone looked like they were fresh off a magazine cover. And Sarah? Well, she was tired of playing it safe. She was a journalism major, known for her confidence, but lately, she'd been feeling like something was missing. She had all the right moves, aced her classes, played on the school's basketball team, and even had a solid group of friends. But something about today made her want to do something crazy, something she'd never do in a million years. Maybe it was the energy in the room, or maybe it was the fact that she was feeling extra daring, but she had decided it was time to make a move. "Yo, Amanda," Sarah said, practically bouncing off the bed. "How about we spice things up a little?" Amanda didn't even look up. "What are you planning, Sarah?" "I'm going to post on the confession page," Sarah replied, her fingers already flying over the screen. "And I'm not just posting some boring "I like you" confession. Nah, I'm going big." Amanda raised an eyebrow. "You sure? I mean, those things can get messy. People talk." Sarah didn't hesitate for a second. "Exactly. Messy is good. I've been too chill lately. Time to shake things up." She smirked, hitting post before she could second-guess herself. The picture was flawless, thanks to Amanda's camera work. Sarah looked like she belonged on a billboard, and her caption? "Hey S, let's make it official. I'm 6'1", can dunk like a pro, and will serenade you all night long. You won't regret it. Let's see what happens." She hesitated for just a moment before hitting post. The rush of excitement mixed with anxiety made her stomach flutter, but she wasn't backing down. She had decided to throw herself into the spotlight, and there was no turning back. The moment she hit send, Sarah threw herself back onto her bed, the feeling of anticipation rising in her chest. For a second, nothing happened. The seconds dragged on, longer than Sarah expected. Then, a ding, her first notification. Then, another. Then, another. The screen lit up with comments, one after another, faster than she could read them. The first few were friendly. "Damn, Sarah, you're bold." And, "Yo, this is hilarious, you're so extra in the best way." People were laughing, encouraging her, tagging their friends and hyping her up. But then the comments started to shift. "Yo, imagine if she's serious. Laugh my ass off," someone posted, followed by another comment. "No way she's really about to challenge someone to a basketball duel over this." And then came the game changer. Someone commented, "I'm also 6'1", got a six-pack, play basketball like it's nothing, and can serenade you better than anyone. Let's meet at the court Tuesday at 5:30. We'll see who really has the skills." Loser backs off. Sarah froze. Her heart skipped a beat. What the hell? Was this real? Her phone buzzed again. Another message from someone else. "This is going to be wild. Who's actually going to show up for this?" The comments flooded in faster than she could keep up. The likes were skyrocketing. Her post had gone viral. Her confession, her challenge, it was everywhere. People she didn't even know were tagging their friends, debating if she was bluffing or if she could actually back it up. Some people were mocking her, but a lot more were loving the drama. Sarah couldn't help but smile, the adrenaline taking over. But then, like a punch to the gut, came another comment from someone who wasn't so thrilled. Trish. "LOL. Desperate much? Trying to get attention with this? Real classy, Sarah." The sting hit harder than Sarah expected. She wasn't surprised. It was just like Trish to throw some shade, but that didn't make it hurt any less. The moment felt like it was slipping away, but then Sarah took a deep breath, locked her phone, and looked over at Amanda. Amanda was dying of laughter. "Girl, you just did that. You literally just started an entire campus-wide drama." Sarah couldn't help but laugh too, but deep down, the pressure started to settle in. This wasn't just a post anymore. She had thrown herself into the middle of a challenge, and the whole world was watching. The likes, the comments, the questions, people were expecting her to show up, to prove she wasn't all talk. Her phone buzzed again. Another comment. Another challenge. "Yo, I'm pulling up Tuesday. Let's see if you can back that confidence up. This is about to get interesting." That was it. Sarah couldn't back down now. There was no turning back. She had gone from an ordinary student to a viral sensation, and the game was on. She took a deep breath, smiling to herself. This was exactly what she needed. The challenge had begun, and Sarah Winters was ready for whatever came next. The next few hours after Sarah's post were straight up crazy. Her phone was blowing up like fireworks on the 4th of July. Notifications, messages, tags, likes, everything was blowing up. Her confession had gone viral, and now it seemed like everyone and their mum had something to say about it. People were talking on campus, on social media. Heck, even people she barely knew were tagging each other in her post, sharing screenshots, and asking what was about to go down next. The basketball challenge was quickly becoming the topic of the semester. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling she was living in some sort of reality television show, with everyone watching, waiting to see how this wild ride would end. At first, she couldn't help but feel a little giddy. This was exactly what she'd wanted, right? She had everyone's attention. But as the hours passed, the excitement shifted into something that felt more like pressure. People weren't just waiting to see what happened next. They were expecting her to show up and back up everything she'd just said. "Yo, girl, this is crazy," Amanda said, leaning against Sarah's desk, grinning like she had just hit the jackpot. "You did that. The whole school is talking about you right now." "I mean, I guess that's the point," Sarah muttered, pacing back and forth, her hands running through her hair. "But now I've got to actually show up. People are literally betting on me, Amanda." Amanda laughed, scrolling through her feed, her eyes lighting up as she saw 100 more notifications pop up. "You're not just showing up, you're about to make this showdown legendary." "I'm already seeing memes, girl. You've officially gone viral." "I know," Sarah said, her stomach tightening with nerves. "I can't believe I did this." Sarah kept scrolling through her messages, feeling like she was living in some kind of dream or nightmare. And then, her eyes froze on a new message from James, the guy who had started this whole viral mess, the one who had called her out. His message was direct, and her pulse quickened when she read it. "Meet me at 5:30 Tuesday. Don't back down. I'm not here to lose." The challenge was real, and Sarah wasn't about to back out now. If she did, she'd lose everything she had just gained, her reputation, the attention, the moment. She had to show up, no matter how much her heart was racing or how crazy the whole situation had become. But there was one problem. She couldn't do this alone. Sarah paced around the room, biting her lip. She needed help. Someone who actually knew what they were doing on the court. Someone who could help her win this thing. And the first person that came to mind? Chris, Amanda's older brother. Chris was a literal basketball prodigy. The guy had made varsity in high school, played for local teams, and had a shot that could rival anyone's. Sarah had seen him play, and let's just say, she had zero delusions about taking on James without help. Chris was the only one who could even remotely give her a shot at winning. "Yo, Amanda," Sarah said, pacing the room, her hands itching to text Chris but feeling unsure. "You've got to get Chris on board with this." Amanda raised an eyebrow, glancing up from her phone. "Chris, you're seriously going to ask him for help?" "Look, I'm not backing out, but I'm also not dumb. I need someone who actually knows what they're doing on the court. Someone who can help me win this thing, Sarah said, feeling the pressure building. Yeah, but Chris? Amanda dragged out the name like it was a huge deal. He's not exactly Mr. Let's help Sarah win a basketball duel. That guy's got his own thing going on. I don't care. He's the only person who can make this happen. I need him, Amanda. Amanda sighed dramatically but agreed. Fine, I'll call him. But don't say I didn't warn you. He's not going to be thrilled about this. A few hours later, Sarah found herself sitting in the common area of the dorm, biting her nails nervously. She had sent a message to Chris, asking him to come over. She was literally about to beg him for help, and she wasn't even sure if he would agree. It felt ridiculous, but here she was, desperate to not look like a fool in front of the whole campus. When Chris finally walked into the common area, Sarah didn't even bother with small talk. She went straight to the point. Chris, I need your help, she said quickly, her voice a little higher than usual. Chris raised an eyebrow, looking like he was about to turn around and walk out. Help with what, Sarah? You're a grown woman. What? You need me to teach you how to shoot a basketball? Listen, I've got a challenge. The whole campus is watching me right now. I posted a confession, and some random guy, James, called me out. He wants to play me in a one-on-one basketball game for my heart. If I don't win, I'll look like a joke, and I can't let that happen. So please, Chris, I need you to help me. Chris chuckled under his breath, but the look in his eyes was skeptical. You're serious about this, huh? Dead serious. If I back down now, I'll lose all my credibility. This isn't just about the confession anymore, Chris. It's about me showing up. He crossed his arms, giving her a long, hard stare. And what exactly do you expect me to do, huh? I'm not about to put myself in the middle of your high school drama. Sarah's heart sank. Come on, Chris. You're the best player I know, and if I'm going to win this, I need you. Chris sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know, Sarah. This is a little too much. I don't think you realize what you're getting into. I know exactly what I'm getting into, and that's why I need you. Please, if I lose this, I'll be the joke of the whole campus. I can't let that happen. You've got the skills, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to learn. Whatever it takes, Chris. You name it. Chris hesitated for a moment, clearly not thrilled, but finally, after what felt like an eternity of silence, he nodded. All right, fine. But don't say I didn't warn you. I'm only doing this because I can't watch you make a fool of yourself. Sarah practically jumped up from the couch. You have no idea how much this means. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Chris showed up to their first training session an hour later, looking casual in his athletic gear, but Sarah could tell he wasn't taking this lightly. The guy was focused. Training with Chris was intense. The first few hours felt like torture. Chris wasn't about to coddle her. He had Sarah running drills, practicing her dribbling, and showing her how to fake left and go right without tripping over her own feet. The thing about Chris? He was a natural, a complete beast on the court. He could do things with a basketball that Sarah had only ever seen in highlight reels. Watching him move, effortlessly switching from defense to offense, was enough to make her feel a little bit in awe of him. But what really stood out was how he coached her, how he broke everything down into manageable pieces, showing her how to focus on her footwork, her angles, and her timing. You've got the height, Sarah. You've got the power, he told her, running a hand through his hair as he leaned against the hoop. But you need to learn how to control your pace. You're fast, but you're not efficient yet. We're going to fix that. Despite the pressure mounting every day, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of pride every time she landed a shot, every time she made a move that Chris said looked halfway decent. She was starting to get the hang of it. Slowly but surely, she was becoming the player she needed to be. But as the days passed, One thing kept nagging at her, Trish. "Look at Sarah, trying to be relevant," Trish had said in a post. "She thinks she's going to win a basketball game for a guy's heart? Please. You're only making yourself look desperate. Number fail." Trish wasn't just a bystander in this drama. She was actively fueling it. She had started to post passive-aggressive comments and stories mocking Sarah at every chance. It didn't take long for the whole campus to notice. Sarah didn't let it show, but deep down, she knew this wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about proving herself. Proving to Trish, to everyone who doubted her, that she wasn't just some attention seeker, she was a competitor. And she was ready to show the world exactly what that meant. The showdown was only a few days away. The court had become her stage, Chris her coach, and the campus had become a buzzing hive of speculation and commentary. Sarah had her moment, and she wasn't going to let anyone, especially Trish, make her feel like she wasn't worthy of it. She had recruited Chris for a reason. He was the one person who could make sure she didn't back down from this challenge. She had made the confession. Now it was time to back it up. As Sarah stepped onto the court, ready for the final showdown, she knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about winning a basketball game. It was about proving she could handle whatever life threw her way. And this time, she wasn't going to lose. Sarah's mind was spinning, and it wasn't just from all the running and training. As the days went by, the pressure of the upcoming game grew. The gym became her world, the court her battleground, and Chris was the one guiding her through it. But something else had started to change, something Sarah didn't expect. When she first asked Chris to help her with the basketball challenge, she saw him as just Amanda's older brother, the guy who could teach her how to win. He was the basketball expert, the one she trusted when she had no choice. What she didn't expect was how much more there was to him. As they spent more time together, Sarah realized she wasn't just learning how to play basketball. She was starting to learn more about Chris, how he thought, how he acted, and strangely enough, how he saw her. At first, training was tough. Chris was serious about getting her ready. There were no shortcuts. If Sarah messed up, he wasn't afraid to call her out. "Focus, Sarah. Don't think too much. Just do it," he'd say, his voice sharp but calm. Every time she missed a shot or messed up, Sarah felt a little defeated. But with every mistake came more determination. She didn't want to disappoint Chris, especially now that he was helping her out. She was working hard, not just to prove something to herself, but to him. After a while, Chris began easing up. He could tell Sarah was catching on. He'd guide her through drills, show her where she went wrong, and patiently explain how to fix it. Slowly but surely, Sarah started to feel like she was actually getting good at this. But it wasn't just basketball that was changing. Every time they hung out, those small moments between them, like when Chris gave her advice or flashed her a smile after she made a good shot, felt different. Sarah couldn't quite explain it, but something about the way Chris was with her made her feel more alive, more present than she had in a long time. One day, after a few drills, Chris tossed Sarah a water bottle and leaned against the bleachers, wiping sweat from his brow. His usual serious expression softened as he looked at her. "You're getting better," he said casually, but Sarah could tell there was real pride behind it. She grinned, trying not to blush. "Well, you're actually teaching me. It's working." Chris smirked, meeting her eyes for a moment before looking away. "Yeah, well, it's not that hard. You've got the height, the reach, the instincts. It's all about building confidence now." Sarah swallowed, pushing back the thoughts that always rushed in when Chris looked at her that way. "I'm trying. I don't want to mess this up." "You won't," he said, his voice gentler than usual. "You've got it in you." The way he was looking at her made Sarah's heart flip. She hadn't expected that. She had always seen Chris as just her coach. But now, he was more than that. He wasn't just pushing her to be better at basketball. He was starting to care in a way that felt different. Chris wasn't the type of guy to let his guard down easily. He had a reputation for being tough, cool, and unbothered by most things. But when he was around her, Sarah started to notice how he would laugh at her jokes or make sure she was okay during breaks. It wasn't for show, it was real. He genuinely cared. That realization hit her like a ton of bricks. Was she imagining things? Or was there something more? The more time they spent together, the more she couldn't ignore the little sparks between them. The way his touch lingered when he corrected her stance, or how his eyes softened when she did something right. It was after a particularly hard practice, when Sarah finally hit her first perfect three-pointer, that Chris caught her off guard. "Good job," he said, offering her a high five. But before their hands connected, he paused, looking at her a little longer than necessary. His gaze held hers for just a second, almost like he was searching for something. Then he shook his head, like he snapped out of it. "Thanks," Sarah replied, but her voice was shaky. Was he just being polite, or was there something more behind the way he looked at her? The rest of their training felt different after that moment. Sarah tried to stay focused, to push away the weird feelings, but it was hard. Chris was still coaching her, but now, every time they worked together, it felt like there was an unspoken connection between them. Later that evening, after practice, as the sun was setting and the gym was quieter than usual, Chris sat down next to Sarah on the bench, wiping his face with a towel. "You good?" he asked, his voice soft, like he wasn't just talking about basketball anymore. "Yeah," Sarah said, glancing at him quickly. She felt her heart pounding in her chest. "Just tired, I guess." Chris chuckled and looked at her with a mix of amusement and something else, something Sarah couldn't quite name. "I get it. But hey, you're doing better than you think. Just don't overthink it. You've got the skills, and now it's about your head. You've got to believe in yourself." "I'm trying," she murmured, her heart pounding harder. There was something in Chris's eyes, something in the way he was looking at her now, that made her feel like she wasn't just trying to impress a coach anymore. She was trying to impress someone who actually cared, someone who was really paying attention to her. The way he cared, the way he was there for her, it made everything feel more intense than she expected. As they both sat there, the silence stretched between them, but it wasn't awkward. It was like they were both waiting for something, waiting for that moment when they could admit, even if only to themselves, that maybe, just maybe, this whole situation had started to mean something else. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that things were changing. She was starting to see Chris in a whole new way. He wasn't just the guy who could teach her how to win a game of basketball. He was someone who had gotten to her in a way no one had before. But now, she was faced with a question she didn't have an answer for. Was this about basketball, or was it something more? She wasn't sure yet. All she knew was that she wasn't just looking at Chris as her coach anymore. She was starting to look at him as someone different, and that scared her a little. But more than anything, it made her wonder if she was ready to face whatever came next, not just on the court, but in whatever this thing between them was turning into. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the campus. Sarah's heart was racing as she stood at the edge of the basketball court, watching the crowd gather. This wasn't just any game. It was the game, the one everyone had been talking about. Sarah had to prove she wasn't just the girl from the viral confession. She had to show up, or this whole thing would be a bust. The court was packed with students, phones out, recording every moment. The energy was crazy, and everyone was waiting to see if Sarah could actually play. She adjusted her hoodie, trying to calm her nerves. The game wasn't just about attention anymore. It was about proving herself. She wasn't the girl who got attention for the wrong reasons. No, she was about to show everyone that she belonged here. She looked around the court, and there he was. James, her rival. He was tall, athletic, and confident, dribbling the ball like it was nothing. His swagger made it clear he was ready to win. Sarah swallowed hard. Now that they were face to face, it hit her how much of a challenge he really was. James shot her a smirk. "Ready to lose, Sarah?" he asked, full of cocky confidence. It wasn't just talk. He meant it. Sarah clenched her jaw, refusing to doubt herself. She had trained hard with Chris. She wasn't going to back down now. No way. The buzzer sounded, and it was go time. The crowd's energy went from excitement to pure tension. The ball was tossed in the air, and the game started. James made the first move, charging down the court with speed that Sarah couldn't match. He dribbled smoothly, looking like he had been doing this for years. Sarah tried to keep up, but it was clear this guy was good. He faked her out and went for the basket. Sarah jumped to block him, but he spun and scored easily. "Damn," Sarah muttered to herself. He was good, but she wasn't about to back down. Not now. She took a deep breath, resetting her focus. "I've got this," she told herself. Chris's words echoed in her head. "Focus. Don't let him get in your head." Even though Chris wasn't next to her in that moment, it felt like he was there, guiding her. Every move she made, she felt his eyes on her. She wasn't just playing for herself. She was playing for him. James tried to drive past her again, but this time, Sarah was ready. She faked right, pivoted left, and stole the ball. She ran down the court, her legs burning, but her mind sharp. The crowd went wild as she pushed herself harder. "Let's go, Sarah," someone yelled. That was all she needed. She was in it now. She wasn't letting this slip away. The next few minutes flew by. Sarah was locked in. She dribbled past James and made a clean shot from the three-point line. The ball hit the rim, but it went in. The crowd went crazy, and Sarah couldn't help but smile. She had made it. James wasn't backing down. He responded quickly, and the battle between them raged on. He was still faster, but Sarah wasn't giving up. Every time he scored, she was right there, pushing herself harder. With every move, Sarah felt the pressure, and something else. Every time James tried to make a move, she felt Chris's presence on the sidelines, urging her on. It wasn't just the game anymore. It was the way Chris looked at her, the way his eyes followed her every move. He wasn't just her coach, he was standing by her, supporting her. And that made everything feel more intense. In the middle of all the chaos, Sarah realized she wasn't just playing for herself. She wasn't even just playing to win. She was playing for Chris. Every time she made a shot, every time she blocked James, she was waiting for his reaction, his smile, the way his eyes lit up when she did something right. It wasn't just about winning anymore. It was about him being proud of her. The crowd's cheers faded as Sarah focused only on the game, and Chris, she wasn't going to mess this up. She wasn't going to let him down. As the clock ticked down, it was clear the game was getting close. Sarah had one more shot to make. If she missed, the game was over. The ball was in her hands, and she could feel her heart pounding in her chest. She had done everything she could to get here. It all came down to this last shot. James was closing in, but Sarah didn't hesitate. She faked left, went right, and launched the ball toward the basket. Everything seemed to slow down. The ball flew through the air, spinning, heading for the hoop. Swish. The crowd went wild. Sarah stood there breathless as the ball landed perfectly in the net. She had done it. She had won. For a moment, everything was silent. Sarah felt the weight of the game lift off her shoulders. She looked over at Chris. His face was full of pride, a huge smile on his lips. The way he looked at her was different than before. There was something deeper in his gaze, something Sarah hadn't seen until now. She had won the game, but more than that, she had proven something to herself and to Chris. As the crowd celebrated, Sarah made her way over to Chris, still panting from the game. The adrenaline was wearing off, but there was a warmth in her chest that hadn't been there before. She had done it, not just for herself, but with Chris by her side, supporting her every step of the way. "You did it," Chris said, his voice low but filled with pride. His eyes were still locked on her, his smile wide. "You killed it." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said softly. The words felt right, like they had been waiting to be said for longer than she realized. She had done it for herself, but Chris had been the reason she could. Chris's smile softened, and for the first time that day, he let his guard down. He reached out, ruffling her hair like he used to when she'd made a good play, but there was something different in the way he touched her now. Something gentle, something warm. "Guess you're not just a one-hit wonder after all," he teased with a grin. Sarah laughed, her chest tight with excitement. "Guess not." But as she looked at him, something shifted inside her. It wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about him. As the crowd continued to cheer and celebrate around them, Sarah realized something. This moment, this victory, wasn't just for the glory of the game. It was for them. And for the first time, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what might happen after the game. What if this had been the beginning of something more than just a challenge? Her heart raced as she caught Chris's eye. Something had changed, and she was beginning to realize it wasn't just about winning the game. It was about what was happening between them. The rivalry was over. But what came next? She wasn't sure, but she was more than ready to find out. The weeks after the basketball game had been a mix of silence and noise. The campus was still buzzing with the aftermath. But Sarah couldn't shake the tension that hung between her and Chris. It wasn't like they weren't talking. Far from it. They were texting, hanging out, and laughing like usual. But something felt different now. The energy between them was electric, like there was something unspoken they both were feeling but hadn't addressed yet. Every time they locked eyes, it felt like there was something more being said without words. Sarah couldn't tell if she was imagining it, but the way Chris would catch her gaze and then quickly look away. The way his smile lingered just a little longer than it used to. It was confusing, and it made Sarah's heart race in a way it never had before. She had tried to shake it off. After all, they were just friends, right? He had been her coach for the basketball challenge, but that was over now. The game had ended, and they should be able to go back to being the same Sarah and Chris, just two people who had a lot of mutual respect for each other. But something was shifting, and Sarah couldn't deny it any longer. She was developing feelings for him. A couple of days after the game, Sarah found herself sitting in the dorm, replaying every little moment with Chris over the past few weeks. The chemistry between them was so obvious now that it felt suffocating. She had to say something. Anything. "Chris," Sarah started, her voice a little shakier than she'd meant it to be. She cleared her throat, trying to sound more confident. "We need to talk." Chris raised an eyebrow, setting his phone down on the table. "Uh-oh, that's never good. What's on your mind?" Sarah paused, gathering her thoughts. The truth was, she was terrified of what she was about to say. But the more she sat with her feelings, the more she realized she couldn't pretend anymore. "Look, I know we've been keeping things cool and casual, and I appreciate that, but I can't help but feel like something's changed between us. Since the game, I don't know. I just feel like there's this tension. Like there's something more happening that neither of us is addressing." Chris's eyes narrowed slightly, like he was trying to read her. "You mean, like how you've been staring at me for the past few minutes?" Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She quickly looked away, embarrassed. "What? No, I wasn't. Wait, was I?" Chris chuckled, but his voice softened, and his gaze became more intense. "Sarah, look, you're right. Something has changed. I can feel it too." Her heart pounded in her chest. This was it, the conversation she'd been avoiding. But now that it was finally happening, she couldn't turn back. Sarah took a deep breath, struggling to find the words. I think I've developed feelings for you, Chris. I know this is crazy, and we've always been friends, and I really didn't expect it. But I can't pretend I don't feel it anymore. I care about you. A lot. Chris's face was unreadable for a long moment, and Sarah felt her chest tighten. She had said it. The truth was out there, raw and vulnerable, and now she had to wait for him to respond. I've been feeling the same way, Chris said finally, his voice quieter than usual. But I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to ruin our friendship or complicate things even more. You were clear about why we were doing all this. And I didn't want to cross any lines. But yeah, I think I've been feeling something for you too. Sarah's heart skipped. She had been right. She wasn't imagining it. But there was something else in Chris's words, something that made her pause. But why didn't you say anything before? We've been spending all this time together and I thought maybe I was just reading things wrong. Chris ran a hand through his hair, looking a little guilty. I was scared, Sarah. Scared of messing things up between us. We've been friends for so long, and I didn't want to make things awkward if it didn't go anywhere. And honestly, I didn't know how to deal with the situation. We've been caught up in this fake relationship dynamic, and I didn't know if it was just because we were spending so much time together, or if it was something real. Sarah let that sink in. She had thought the same thing. Was this just a product of the adrenaline of the game, the pressure of their training sessions, or was there something more here? I get that, Sarah said softly. But we are friends, Chris. We always have been, and this doesn't have to ruin that. If anything, it could make things even better. But we need to figure out if this is something we both want, like, for real. Chris nodded slowly, his eyes meeting hers. You're right. We can't pretend like we don't have feelings for each other anymore. But I don't want to rush this, Sarah. I want to take it slow, and make sure it's not just about what happened during the game or all the pressure we've been under. I want to be sure it's about us. Sarah felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She wasn't crazy for feeling this way, and neither was he. They had something real. They just needed time to figure out what it meant. I'm with you, she said, her voice steady now. We don't have to rush anything. We can take it one step at a time. The conversation had been a long time coming, and while there were still so many questions and uncertainties, Sarah felt a sense of peace wash over her. She didn't know what the future held for her and Chris. But for the first time in a while, she felt like she was heading in the right direction. As they sat in the quiet, just the two of them, Sarah realized something. Maybe they didn't have all the answers right now, but they didn't need them. What mattered was that they were in this together, and that was enough for now. Chris gave her a small smile, and it was the kind of smile that made Sarah's heart do that funny flutter again. This wasn't just about basketball anymore. This was about them, about two people who had been through something together and were figuring out where it would go from here. She wasn't sure where it would end up, but she knew she was ready to find out. Together. For a while, everything felt perfect. After the basketball game, Sarah was kind of a campus celebrity. People smiled at her in the halls, whispered about her and Chris, and followed her on Instagram just to keep up with the story. Chris kept playing the perfect boyfriend, always showing up with coffee or walking her to class. And Sarah? She started to feel like she was actually living a love story. But not everyone was happy for her. Especially not Trish. It started slowly. A few side eyes, some whispered comments in class, a weird laugh when Sarah walked by. Nothing big, just annoying. Then came the post. Someone uploaded a long thread on the university gossip page. It showed screenshots of Sarah's confession, the challenge comment from Chris, and photos of them together. Each post had captions like, "Too perfect to be real? Looks like a PR stunt. She's just chasing attention." And at the very bottom, one comment stood out. Trish said this was all fake, just a setup for clout. Sarah stared at her phone. Her hands felt cold. She read the comments over and over again. Some people believed the rumors, some didn't, but the damage was done. Her stomach twisted. This was exactly what she had been afraid of. She tried to ignore it, but the next day, more people were talking. Some asked if it was true. Others just looked at her like she was a joke. Even worse, she stopped hearing from Chris. He wasn't texting as much. He wasn't smiling as much either. And Sarah didn't know how to fix it. She skipped 2 classes that week, stayed in her room, tried not to cry when people posted about her again. Then one evening, when she came back from the dining hall, Chris was waiting for her outside her dorm. "Hey," he said. "Hey," she said back, not sure what else to say. "Can we talk?" She nodded, and they walked to a quiet bench behind the library. Chris sat down first. Sarah stayed standing for a second, then sat beside him. "I saw the gossip page," he said. She looked at her hands. "Me too." Chris turned toward her. "Why didn't you say anything?" "I didn't know what to say," she admitted. "I didn't want to drag you into it." "You didn't drag me into anything, Sarah. I chose to be here, but now it feels like you're pushing me away. I just thought, maybe it was better if we stayed quiet. Maybe it would blow over." Chris frowned. "Instead, people think we're lying, that you used me." Her eyes widened. "That's not true." "I know," he said, "but you haven't exactly acted like this is real either." Sarah's chest hurt. She didn't know how to explain it. She had never planned for things to go this far. She didn't expect to fall for him, and now she was afraid. Afraid it would all fall apart if she admitted how much she cared. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. Chris nodded slowly. "Then don't let someone like Trish ruin this. If you want space, fine, but please don't pretend this never meant anything." Then he stood up and walked away. Sarah didn't stop him. She just sat there, the cold air sinking into her skin, her hands still in her lap. She had let Trish win. Not with proof, not with facts, just with rumors. And now she was about to lose something that had become very real. Something she never wanted to fake in the first place. Sarah was still riding the high from her big win, feeling proud and accomplished. The crowd's cheers were still echoing in her mind. And for the first time in a long while, she could actually breathe. She had proven herself, done something for her. The drama, the viral confession, the crazy challenge, it was behind her, and for a minute, everything felt normal again. But of course, just when she thought she could relax, life had a way of reminding her that things weren't that simple. It started with a post. At first, Sarah thought it was just a joke, a random Instagram story from Trish. But when Sarah opened her phone and saw the picture, one of her and Chris from the game, both of them grinning at each other, she felt a familiar knot form in her stomach. Trish had posted it with the caption, "When your fake relationship turns into campus, wide drama. But hey, guess it gets the views, right? Hashtag not so real." Sarah froze, her heart sinking. She quickly checked the comments, dreading what she'd find. Didn't take long for her to start acting all extra with Chris. Who's surprised? Lol. Thought this was all just for attention. Looks like we were right. Hashtag fake vibes. That whole confession thing was so cringe. And now this? A basketball duel? Pathetic. The comments flooded in, mocking Sarah and Chris, tearing apart the entire situation. People were quick to pile on. Like always, Trish had struck back, and this time, it hit harder than Sarah expected. The rumors spread quickly. In just a few hours, the whole campus was buzzing. But this time, it wasn't just about the game. It was about Sarah and Chris, and whether their whole relationship was just some joke for attention. Everywhere Sarah went, She felt the eyes on her. The whispers. People would glance at her and then quickly look away, like they were talking behind her back, their judgment heavy in the air. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Amanda. Yo, Trish is posting about you, and Chris again. This is crazy. You're not going to let her get away with this, are you? Sarah wanted to throw her phone across the room. She couldn't deal with this right now. She had just started to relax, to let go of the pressure. Now, it felt like the weight of the entire campus was back on her shoulders, and Trish was the one making it worse. She tried to ignore it. She really did. But every time she checked social media, there it was. People talking, gossiping, speculating. Some of her friends stood up for her in the comments, but it wasn't enough to drown out the negativity. Chris noticed it too. He'd been quieter around her lately, more distant than usual. The tension between them was growing, but neither of them seemed willing to talk about it. He'd send her a few supportive texts here and there, but that was about it. The weight of everything was starting to take its toll, and every time Sarah saw him, she felt the distance growing. He wasn't cold, but something had shifted. She didn't know if it was the pressure, the rumors, or just life. And then, Trish made it worse. She posted another story, a direct shot at Sarah. This time, it was a screenshot of an old conversation between Sarah and Chris, taken completely out of context. In it, Chris had sent Sarah a text after the game saying, "You were amazing out there today. Seriously, I've never been prouder of you." It was nothing inappropriate, but Trish didn't care about the facts. Her caption was, "What did the damage?" So this is where the friendship ends, huh? We all knew it was about more than basketball. Falling for each other. Sarah's stomach dropped. She couldn't take it anymore. The whispers, the rumors, the mockery. It wasn't just about Trish anymore. It was about everyone. What had started as a fun challenge had now turned into something bigger, a scandal, and Sarah wasn't sure if she could handle it. Later that night, Chris texted her, "You okay?" The simple question felt so heavy. Am I okay? Number. She wasn't. But was Chris? She tried to push the thought aside. She needed answers. She needed clarity. That night she couldn't sleep. Her thoughts kept racing. She grabbed her phone again, scrolling through the posts, the comments, the hashtags. It felt like everything she had worked for was slipping through her fingers. Trish had gotten exactly what she wanted. She had taken Sarah's moment, the one moment she'd felt proud of, and turned it into a joke. This wasn't a reality show. This was her life. The next day, Sarah couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed her jacket and walked out of the dorm, heading straight for Chris's place. When she knocked on his door, her heart was pounding. She didn't know exactly what she was going to say, but she couldn't let this tension go on any longer. Chris opened the door, clearly surprised to see her standing there, frustration clear on her face. Without waiting for him to speak, Sarah pushed past him, stepping into his apartment. "We need to talk," she said. Chris frowned, closing the door behind her. "What's going on, Sarah? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm tired of this, Chris," she said, her voice shaking with a mix of anger and confusion. "I'm tired of pretending like everything's fine when it's not. I'm tired of feeling like I'm the only one carrying this. And I'm definitely tired of Trish. But more than that, I'm tired of this weird tension between us." Chris's expression softened, but there was still hesitation in his eyes. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, looking serious. "I get it. This whole thing is a mess, but I don't know how to fix it either, Sarah." "You don't know how to fix it," she repeated, her voice rising. "You think I do? I'm getting torn apart by people, and it feels like every time I turn around, you're not here. I get that this is complicated, but I'm in this, with you. But I don't know if you are." Chris ran a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. "You think this is easy for me? I've been dealing with this too. I'm trying to figure out what we are, what this is, and now it's all blowing up, and I don't know how to make sense of any of it." The silence between them was thick. It was the first time they'd really addressed everything, the doubts, the pressure, the tension. Sarah took a deep breath, her hands shaking. "I don't know if I can keep doing this alone. I'm not asking for you to have all the answers, Chris, but I need you. If we're going to keep doing this, if we're going to keep being this, then we need to face it together." Chris met her gaze, his eyes softening. "You're right," he said quietly. "I've been pulling away because I didn't want to complicate things. But I'm in this, Sarah. I don't want to lose you because of some rumor or because we were too afraid to talk about it." They stood there for a long moment, the weight of everything sinking in, the uncertainty, the pressure, the tension. It was still there. But for the first time in days, Sarah felt a sense of peace. They didn't have all the answers. They didn't need to, but they were willing to try, together. "Let's take it one step at a time," Sarah whispered. "We can do this, together." And Chris, finally letting his guard down, smiled. Together. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But for the first time, they both knew they were ready to face whatever came next. It was a few weeks after the drama had settled, and Sarah found herself sitting on the steps of the dorm, trying to soak in some peace. After everything, after the viral confession, the game, the rumors, and the constant pressure, it felt like she was finally able to breathe. The chaos seemed to be fading away, and with it, the pressure that had been weighing on her shoulders. But there was still something in the air. Something that wasn't completely right yet. She couldn't ignore the way Chris had been acting lately. The playful banter they once had was still there, but there was a bit of distance now, like there was still something unspoken between them. Sarah didn't want to think about it, but she knew deep down that it wasn't just her overthinking. The tension was real. "Yo, you good?" Amanda asked, her voice snapping Sarah out of her thoughts. She was standing at the door, her arms crossed and looking at Sarah with a concerned expression. Sarah gave her a half smile, trying to play it off. "Yeah, just processing stuff." Amanda raised an eyebrow. "Processing? Like processing or just avoiding the fact that you've been super quiet about Chris lately?" Sarah sighed. "It's just, I don't know. Everything feels kinda off right now. I thought we were past all the drama, but I feel like there's still something between us that's not said." Amanda stepped inside and sat next to Sarah. "Okay, well, what exactly is it you need to say? If it's about Chris, then you need to talk to him. You know that, right?" Sarah leaned back, closing her eyes. "I know, I don't want to mess things up, you know. We've been through a lot, and now with everything that happened, I don't want it to feel forced." Amanda gave her a serious look. "You've got to stop overthinking, Sarah. You and Chris have real feelings for each other. If you don't talk about it, you'll just keep feeling stuck. So just do it. Go talk to him." Later that evening, Sarah found herself standing in front of Chris's door, her heart pounding in her chest. She hadn't felt this nervous since. Well, since the whole basketball game. But now, it wasn't about proving herself or winning a duel. It was about her feelings. Feelings she could no longer ignore. Chris opened the door with that familiar, laid-back grin on his face. But when he saw Sarah standing there, it was like he sensed the shift in the air. He gave her a small smile but stayed quiet, waiting for her to speak. "Hey," Sarah started, her voice a little shaky. "Can we talk? Like, about everything?" Chris stepped aside, letting her in. "Of course. What's going on?" She sat down on the couch, trying to calm her nerves. "Look, I've been thinking a lot. About all the drama. About everything we've been through. And, honestly, I'm tired of pretending like I don't feel anything. I care about you, Chris, more than I thought I would. And I want to be with you. Not because of the game or the attention or whatever. But because I actually care about you, I don't want to hide it anymore. Chris was quiet for a beat, looking at her with soft eyes. The silence stretched between them, and Sarah could feel the uncertainty creeping back in. I don't know how to say this, but I feel the same way, Chris finally said, his voice low and steady. I've been scared too. I didn't want to mess things up, especially with everything that's been going on, but I can't deny it anymore. I care about you, Sarah, more than just as a friend. I've been trying to ignore it, but I can't. Sarah let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. For the first time in days, she felt a little lighter. The weight of the tension between them was finally starting to lift. So, you're not freaking out about this? Chris smirked. I might be freaking out a little, but that's just because I want this to work. And I think it can. We just have to take it one step at a time. Sarah smiled, feeling the last of her doubts disappear. She knew there were still challenges ahead, still things to figure out, but for the first time, it felt like they were on the same page. One step at a time. I'm down for that. A few days later, after everything had settled, Sarah had an idea, a bold one, a grand one. She wasn't about to just let this be a quiet thing between her and Chris. She was ready to show him, and everyone else, that she wasn't afraid of what people thought anymore. She wasn't going to let the drama or the gossip hold her back. That's when the idea hit her. She grabbed her phone, typed out a quick message to Chris. Meet me at the basketball court in 30 minutes. I need to do something. Chris replied, okay, what's up? Just meet me there. It's gonna be good. When Chris arrived, he saw Sarah standing at the court, the same spot where everything had started. The crowd was small, just a few people walking by, but Sarah was standing tall, the ball in her hands, like she was about to make a game-winning shot. All right, Sarah said, turning to Chris with a grin. I'm done hiding. I'm done pretending. It's time for me to show everyone how real this is, how real we are. Chris raised an eyebrow. What are you up to now? Sarah didn't answer right away. She just dribbled the ball, once, twice, and then took the shot. The ball flew through the air and landed perfectly in the hoop. Boom, she said, a grin spreading across her face. That's me. No more pretending. Chris stared at her, his mouth hanging open for a second. Then, a wide smile spread across his face. You really just did that? Yep, she said, holding up the ball with a proud smirk. I'm done with the fear. I'm all in. Are you? Chris walked up to her, his smile matching hers. I'm in. Always. And as they stood together on that court, Sarah knew that she had taken control of her life. She wasn't just playing for the win anymore. She was playing for herself, for Chris, for their future. No one else's opinions mattered. She was finally owning her narrative, and together they were ready for whatever came next.